My name is Hannah Miller. I knew something was wrong the moment my mute sister smiled at me from the front step. It wasn't the polite, tired smile she usually wore for the world. It was sharp, excited, almost relieved. She stood there on my little porch in Ohio, her big brown eyes glossy, lips pressed together like always, with her 6-year-old daughter Evie clinging to her side. I hadn't seen Lily look that happy in years, not since before she lost her voice. I stepped aside to let them in, already feeling that old mix of guilt and resentment stir in my chest. "Come on, it's freezing," I said, opening the door wider. "You'll both catch your death out there." Lily rolled her eyes at me playfully and tapped at the speech app on her phone, the one with the synthetic cheerful woman's voice she used instead of talking. "Always the nurse," the app chirped. She held it up like a punchline. I forced a laugh. It still broke my heart sometimes, hearing that fake voice come out instead of hers. 4 years earlier, after our dad's sudden heart attack, Lily just stopped talking. Doctors had thrown around phrases like psychogenic mutism and conversion disorder. Physically, they said, she was fine. Emotionally, she'd shut down. Everyone started walking on eggshells around her. She moved in with this guy Mark, got on disability, had Evie, and I became the reliable older sister who picked up what she dropped. Money, groceries, babysitting, the emotional mess. Evie stepped past her mom and looked up at me. She had Lily's big eyes, but not the sparkle. They were tired, too old for 6. She raised a small hand and waved. "Hi, Bug," I smiled, ruffling her hair. "Got your favorite cereal in, and the purple blanket you like." She gave a tiny nod, still silent. I'd never really heard her talk, just the odd word here and there, always around Lily, like she was scared her voice was wrong somehow. Behind them, Mark was unloading a small suitcase from their car. He didn't even look at me at first, just at his phone, as if being in my driveway was a burden. Finally, he glanced up, flashed a tight smile. "Hannah," he said. "Thanks again for doing this. You're a lifesaver." "I haven't actually agreed yet," I muttered, but under my breath. Out loud I said, "It's fine. It's just 3 nights, right?" He nodded, stepping inside. The smell of his aftershave hit me, too strong for 9 a.m. "Yeah. Work thing in Chicago. Can't exactly drag a kid to sales conferences." Lily tapped her phone again. "We're so grateful," the app said. "You're the only one we trust." Funny, I thought, because lately I didn't trust them at all. 2 weeks earlier, a letter had come through my door, a debt collection notice for a credit card I didn't remember opening. At first I thought it was some scam until I saw my social security number on it. Then another letter, a pre-approval for a second card, same company, same address, Lily's address. I'd confronted her by text, hands shaking as I typed. Me. "Lily, did you use my SSN for something? I just got a notice." She'd sent back a crying emoji, then, "I thought it was mine. Must be admin mistake. I'll sort it. Please don't be mad. I'm so stressed." I'd wanted to believe her. I always wanted to believe her. She was the damaged one, the fragile one. I was the strong one, the nurse, the fixer. So when Mom had begged me, "Hannah, please watch Evie so Lily can go with Mark. They really need this break," I'd said yes, even though every part of me was tired. Now Lily stood in my living room, scanning it with quick eyes, like she was checking something off a list. She moved faster than she used to, more energy, more color in her face. Being mute hadn't stopped her from living. It had just given her an excuse to never explain herself. "Tea?" I asked, trying to cut through the tension. She shook her head, tapped the app. "We need to go soon. Long drive. Can we go over the paperwork?" "Paperwork?" I frowned. Mark pulled a folded document from his jacket. "Guardianship form," he said smoothly. "Just temporary, just in case. Work trip, highways, you know how it is. Lily's been anxious. It just says that while we're away, you can make decisions if she gets sick. Doctors and stuff." Something in my chest tightened. "Why didn't you mention this before?" He shrugged. "Didn't want to freak you out. It's just a formality. I had my lawyer buddy print it, standard template." He spread it on my dining table. There was a block of small legal print, some blanks filled with my full name and address, a space for my signature. a notary stamp already on it. Why is it already stamped? I asked. Oh, that's just, pre-stamped, he said quickly. They do that sometimes. Saves time. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not stupid. Something about it felt off. I glanced at Lily. She was watching me too closely, her fingers tight around her phone. I'll look it over later, I said. You need to hit the road, right? Mark's jaw flexed. It takes 2 seconds, Hannah. Then it can wait till tonight, I answered, trying to keep my voice light. When I've had coffee and my glasses on, I've just come off a night shift. You don't want my sleep-deprived signature. Lily's hand brushed his arm, a tiny warning. He backed off, forcing a laugh. Fine, tonight. We did the awkward door goodbyes. Lily bent to hug Evie, her arms clinging too tight. For a second, something flickered in her face. Fear? Guilt? Then she stepped back, lifting her phone. Be good for Auntie Hannah, the app said. I love you. I'll be back soon. Evie nodded, eyes wide, lip trembling. She didn't say a word. I walked them to the car, feeling that strange, crawling dread up my spine again. Mark put their case in the trunk, leaned over the steering wheel. Seriously, Hannah, he said, looking past me at my house. You've been amazing. After this, things are going to be so much easier for all of us. It sounded more like a promise than a thank you. Or a threat. I couldn't tell. They drove off. I stood on the porch a moment, watching the car get smaller down the street, until it turned the corner and disappeared. The house fell quiet. I turned back inside, closing the door. Well, I sighed, clapping my hands softly. Looks like it's just us, Bug. You want pancakes? I assumed she'd shrug, or nod, or cling to her backpack like she always did. Instead, there was this tiny intake of breath behind me. Auntie Hannah, a small voice said, clear as a bell. Please don't sign the papers. I froze. Slowly, I turned around. Evie was standing in the middle of my hallway, hugging her stuffed rabbit to her chest. Her lips were parted, her eyes were huge, and she had spoken, not a garbled baby word, a full, proper sentence. For a second I honestly thought I was hallucinating from lack of sleep. What did you say, sweetheart? I whispered. She swallowed. Her little chin wobbled. Please don't sign the papers, she repeated, a bit faster, like she was worried I hadn't heard. Daddy said if you sign them, you won't be here when they come back. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I could hear it in my ears. You can talk, I said stupidly. Evie frowned, as if I'd missed the important part. Mommy said I have to be quiet around you, she whispered. She said you make everything complicated if you know too much. But Daddy said bad things. About you. In the kitchen. When Mommy thought I was playing. I knelt slowly so I was level with her. Evie, I said carefully, trying to keep my voice calm even though my brain was screaming. You need to tell me exactly what you heard. All of it. And don't worry, you're not in trouble. You're very, very brave for telling me. Tears filled her eyes. I'm scared, she breathed. I pulled her into a hug, my mind racing. My mute niece was speaking like she'd been doing it her whole life. My mute sister had taught her to stay silent specifically around me, and there was a piece of paper in my dining room that Mark was desperate for me to sign. Okay, I said, stroking her hair. Let's go sit on the sofa, yeah? I'll make you hot chocolate, and you can tell me what Daddy said. We sat wrapped in my purple blanket, Evie's small fingers twisting the hem while I warmed milk in the microwave. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the mug. When we were settled, she took a deep breath like she'd seen adults do. Daddy thinks I'm sleeping when he talks in the kitchen, she started quietly. But I hear. He said you're worth more to them if something bad happens to you. Because of the paper, and because of the money man. The money man? I repeated, my throat dry. She nodded. The man with the shiny watch, she said. The one who made Mommy laugh and said, don't worry, if anything happens to your sister, the payout is huge. I stared at her, the room spinning slightly. An image flashed in my mind, 3 months earlier, Lily had come by with a man she'd called her caseworker friend. He'd worn a suit, a shiny watch. She'd used her app to say he was helping her sort her benefits, and some paperwork I could sign as her emergency contact. I'd made them coffee and then rushed off to work, saying I'd look at whatever she left later. When I got home, there was no envelope on the table. I'd assumed they'd forgotten it. "Evie," I said slowly, "did this man come to your house too?" She nodded again, clutching her rabbit tighter. "He came then went with Daddy to the office place. Mommy said they were fixing things so she doesn't have to be poor anymore. She said Auntie Hannah owes her, because you got everything from Grandma and she got nothing." I felt like I'd been punched. Our mum, Carol, had moved into a retirement apartment after Dad died. She'd put the old family house in my name, not because she loved me more, but because, as she told us both, "Hannah, at least you pay bills on time. Lily, love, you'd gamble the bricks away." Lily had joked for years that the house should be half hers. I'd offered to help her, to let her move in, to work out something together. She'd sulked and called me controlling. I told myself she just needed time to grieve, and now my 6-year-old niece was telling me her parents had found some way to make me worth more if something bad happened. "Did Daddy say what would happen?" I whispered. Evie's eyes filled with tears. He said it'd look like an accident," she choked. "He said maybe a fire, or maybe when you're driving. He said you're always so tired from the hospital. It wouldn't be hard." The mug nearly slipped from my hands. I was a nurse on rotating shifts, sometimes working nights, sometimes coming home practically sleepwalking. I'd joked about it in front of Lily. I'd once fallen asleep in my car outside my house. They knew my routine. They knew when I was alone, and they wanted me to sign a guardianship paper right before going away on a trip. Cold, focused anger cut through the panic. "Evie," I said, forcing my voice steady, "has Mommy ever talked when she thought no one could hear her?" She hesitated. "She talks to Daddy," she whispered. "She just doesn't talk when other people are there, or when you're there. She says people listen more if you're broken." My heart sank. For 4 years we'd all been tiptoeing around her silence, adjusting our lives, our expectations, our sympathy. I'd driven her to doctors, to therapists, defended her to family who thought she was milking it. I'd believed every tear that slid down her cheek while that stupid app spoke for her. And all this time, at home, she'd been chatting away. I set the mug down before I dropped it. "Thank you for telling me," I whispered, brushing Evie's hair back. "You did the right thing. You probably saved my life." Her lower lip trembled. "Am I bad for telling?" she asked. "Mommy said families should keep secrets." "You are not bad," I said firmly. "You are the bravest person I know, and I'm going to keep you safe, I promise." She climbed into my lap, curling up like a much smaller child, and I held her, my mind racing through every conversation, every odd moment with Lily over the past year. The sudden interest in my insurance when I switched jobs, the way she'd asked me to send her a photo of my driver's license for a disability parking form, the letter about the mysterious credit card, the locked drawer I'd glimpsed in her kitchen, the one Mark had snapped at me about when I tried to open it, saying, "We all need privacy, Hannah." He hadn't sounded like a man with nothing to hide. I thought about marching outside, calling the police, screaming down the phone that my sister and her boyfriend were planning to cash in on me like I was a policy, not a person. But then I looked down at Evie, tight in my arms. If I went in blind and they wriggled out of it, what would happen to her? She was already a prop in their act, a silent, well-behaved little doll they wheeled out to prove how hard their life was. If they knew she'd talked, that she'd told me, what would they do? They were clever enough to plan something like this. They were petty enough to hurt a child who disobeyed. Revenge, I realized, couldn't be just about me getting even. It had to be about dismantling whatever they'd built, so they couldn't hurt anyone again, especially her. I stroked Evie's back as she dozed off, exhaustion finally winning. Then I carefully reached for my phone and sent one message. Me. "Sam, you still on days this week? Need a favor, and your boring, sensible brain." Sam Patel had been my friend at the hospital for years. Calm, rational, the one who double-checked drug charts when everyone else rushed. If anyone could keep me from doing something reckless, it was him. He replied in seconds. Sam. Always. What's up? Me. Can you swing by after your shift? I need to talk. And before you say it, no, I am not asking you to help bury a body. Sam. I'm definitely coming now. While Evie slept on the sofa, I crept into my bedroom, shut the door quietly, and started going through my files. Old mail, emails, anything from insurance companies. It didn't take long. 2 letters, both from an insurance provider I didn't remember choosing. Welcome to your new life insurance policy, one read, dated 3 months ago. Thank you for choosing us for your peace of mind. The second was a copy of your policy details, including my full name, my correct date of birth, and a beneficiary section. Beneficiary. Lily Carter, sister. The signature at the bottom was shaky, not quite like mine, but close. Close enough that someone glancing wouldn't notice. I stared at it so long, my vision blurred. I hadn't signed this. I knew I hadn't. I barely had enough money to pay my rent and student loans. Life insurance was something I always thought I'd sort later. The pit in my stomach turned to stone. I flicked through more letters. There, 2 more about a joint accidental death and injury rider, and an expedited payout option. Jargon. I didn't fully understand, but the phrase, in case of unexpected fatality, jumped out at me. A noise at the door made me jump. Evie stood there, rubbing her eyes. Auntie Hannah? She sniffed. I had a dream Daddy was laughing at you. I crossed the room and pulled her close. He's not going to laugh for long, I murmured, more to myself than her. When Sam arrived that evening, he took one look at my face and dropped his little Tupperware of leftover curry on the counter. Okay, he said. This is not a my cat clawed the sofa crisis. This is a you look like you've seen a ghost crisis. I sent Evie to the next room with my tablet and headphones, a cartoon playlist, and a promise of ice cream after. Then I told Sam everything. By the time I finished, his normally calm, professional expression was hard. You're sure that's what she said? He asked. I swear, I said. And then I found these. I shoved the insurance letters at him. He read them, lips thinning. This signature is dodgy, he said, but it's not obviously fake. They'd argue you signed when you were tired or pressured, especially if your oh-so-fragile mute sister backs that up. He looked up. Hannah, this is serious. If what you're saying is right, they haven't just betrayed you, they've broken the law. Fraud, at least. Maybe more. I know, I whispered, and they have my social. They could be doing God knows what else. He tapped the papers against the table, thinking, you need a lawyer, and the police. But walking in there with my 6-year-old niece told me as your only evidence, they'll smile, nod, and file it under family drama. That's what I'm afraid of. He glanced toward the living room, where we could hear faint cartoon music. What about her? She could talk to someone. She's 6, I said, and terrified. She still thinks telling me might make her mom stop loving her. I'm not putting her in a room with strangers and expecting her to carry this. Sam scrubbed a hand over his face. Okay, so we gather evidence. Carefully. You don't sign anything. You act normal. You let them think you're still the same old Hannah who cleans up their mess. Keep my enemies close, I muttered. Something like that. He pointed at my phone. From now till they get back, you write everything down. Dates, times, what they've asked you to do, anything weird Lily's done recently. You still have those texts where she accidentally used your SSN? Yeah. Back them up, print them, email them to yourself, and maybe, he added, voice lowering, you let them go ahead with a little bit of their plan, just enough rope. The idea made my skin crawl. You mean, pretend to go along? If they think you're onto them, they'll change tactics, or disappear, and then you'll never get justice, or protect that kid. He met my eyes. I'm not saying put yourself in danger. I'd chain you to this radiator before I let you go anywhere alone with them. But if they're arrogant, and you're careful, you might be able to catch them talking. Or get more documents, something the police can't ignore. It felt wrong, planning anything that involved letting Lily think I was still hers to manipulate. But the thought of her and Mark smugly walking away, spending money made off my life, maybe repeating this with someone else, made my hands curl into fists. "I'll do it," I said quietly. "But I'm not just going to survive this. I'm going to shut them down." Over the next 3 days, I became an actress in my own home. To Lily and Mark, over text, I was still the slightly frazzled but adoring big sister, sending photos of Evie playing, updates about her meals, emojis with hearts. I mentioned being too busy to look at the papers yet, but promised I would tomorrow for sure XX. To Sam, I was a project manager. I forwarded him everything: screenshots, old emails, notes of conversations I remembered from months back. He found me a small, sharp local lawyer named Denise, who agreed to see me pro bono at first, just to hear my situation. Denise took one look at the insurance documents and whistled. "This is messy," she said. "If you didn't sign these, someone committed fraud. And if there's talk of you having an accident, that slides into something darker. But it's my word against theirs," I said, "and Lily's condition." Denise's mouth twisted. "Psychogenic mutism doesn't stop her picking up a pen," she said dryly. "But yes, the sympathy factor is on her side. Unless," she added slowly, "her condition isn't quite as genuine as everyone thinks." I thought of Evie's small voice. "It's not," I said. "At home she talks. To Mark. To Evie. She's been lying to everyone." Denise's eyes sharpened. "If you can prove that, it changes things. A woman who lies about being mute for years to get benefits and sympathy is a woman a jury won't trust so easily on anything else, including whether you signed something." "How do I prove it?" I asked. "It's my word, and Evie's, and I won't put her on a stand." "You don't put her on a stand," Denise agreed. "You record Lily. Video, audio, whatever you can. You get her forgetting to stay in character. Or you get that precious boyfriend of hers bragging about their setup. Men like that love to talk." It felt wrong, sneaky, illegal even, but Denise assured me in Ohio I could record conversations I was part of. "You aren't hacking their phones," she said. "You're protecting yourself." When Lily and Mark came back 3 days later, they walked into a trap they didn't even know I'd started to build. They swept in all smiles, Mark a bit too bright, Lily even more animated than when she'd left. She hugged Evie with what looked like real joy. For a moment, seeing my little niece's face light up, I almost doubted myself. Maybe there was some misunderstanding. Maybe. Then Lily looked at me, over Evie's shoulder, and there was something cold in her eyes. Calculating. Measuring. "How was the trip?" I asked, forcing cheer, my phone recording in my cardigan pocket. Mark grinned. "Productive," he said. "We locked in a big deal. Things are finally turning around for us." "Good," I said. "Evie was an angel." Lily tapped her app. "She always is," the voice trilled. Inside, I flinched. Outwardly, I smiled. "Hey, did you get a chance to look at that form?" Mark asked casually as we sat at the table with tea. "No rush or anything. Just, for next time." I glanced at it. I said, "To be honest, I don't really understand all the legal bits." He leaned forward like a salesman. "It's simple, Hannah. It just says if anything happens while Evie is with you, you're allowed to authorize medical treatment. And God forbid, if something happens to us, you can look after her until things are sorted." "Why is your lawyer friend's name on it then?" I asked, as if just curious. "And what's this bit about assets?" His smile didn't slip, but his eyes flickered. "Standard," he said quickly. "They bundle that stuff in. Look, if it makes you feel better, we can cross out any bits you don't like." I nodded slowly. "Maybe we can all go through it together sometime. Just so we're clear. I hate fine print." He forced a laugh. "Sure. Next week maybe. It's been a long drive." My phone, in my pocket, caught every word. That night, after they left with Evie, I sat on my bed and listened to the recording. Mark's casual tone, his slippery explanations, the way Lily's app voice chimed in at convenient moments. To anyone else, it sounded like normal family admin. But now that I knew what lay beneath, every sentence felt like poison. Denise agreed. "He's being very careful," she said when I played it for her. But the fact he's willing to alter a legal document on the fly is interesting. And this lawyer friend who pre-stamped a form? I want his name. Piece by piece, we built a picture. Denise found out the insurance guy with the shiny watch wasn't Lily's caseworker friend at all. He was an independent broker who'd been disciplined 2 years earlier for aggressive selling practices to vulnerable clients. He'd since set up under a slightly different name. My credit report showed 2 cards I hadn't opened, both maxed out. The address on file? Lily and Mark's rental. A 3rd card application had been declined due to suspicious activity. That's what had triggered the letter I received. We also found, buried in my email spam folder, a notification from a bank I didn't use, thanking me for opening a high-yield savings account. The contact phone number on file wasn't mine. It was Lily's. Every discovery felt like being slapped. This wasn't just a random bad idea they'd had one desperate night. This was a plan, step by step, build up policies, rack up debt in my name so I'd be too distracted to notice, get my signature on something that gave them legal access to my decisions and assets. And then, remove the problem. Me. I'd spent years telling myself Lily was just struggling, that grief had broken her, that if I were more patient, more understanding, she'd get better. But this wasn't grief. This was greed, dressed up as fragility. The real breaking point came 2 weeks later, when Child Protective Services knocked on my door. I was folding laundry before a shift when I heard the knock. 2 women stood there, badges around their necks, polite but firm. "Ms. Hannah Miller?" the older one asked. "I'm Ms. Rodriguez with Child Protection. This is my colleague Jenna. We've had a report and would like to ask you a few questions." My stomach turned to ice. "A report about what?" I asked. "A concern regarding your niece, Evie Carter," she said gently. "We received an anonymous call stating you may have been losing your temper with her while she was in your care." For a second, the world went white. "Come in," I said, stepping back. We sat on the sofa where Evie had curled into my lap and whispered the truth weeks before. I answered every question. No, I'd never hit her. No, I'd never shouted at her beyond a normal "don't touch the stove" raised voice. Yes, I worked long hours, but I arranged care appropriately. Yes, my neighbors could vouch for me. Rodriguez watched me carefully. "The caller mentioned bruises," she said, "on her arms." "I know exactly which bruises she means," I said, voice shaking with fury. "Evie fell off the swings at the park when I took her. I told Lily about it. I even sent her a picture so she wouldn't worry." I grabbed my phone, scrolling to find the photo. "Here." She took the phone, studied it. "You documented the time and date on this," she noted. "I'm a nurse," I said flatly. "We document everything." As they left, Rodriguez paused. "Ms. Miller, anonymous reports are sometimes made in good faith and sometimes not. We have to take them all seriously. But we also see patterns." She met my eyes. "If you believe someone is making malicious reports about you, keep a log, and if you feel in danger, call the police." As their car pulled away, my hands shook so violently I had to sit down. Lily hadn't just planned to profit from my death. She was already trying to ruin my life while I was still here. She'd weaponized the one thing she knew I cared about most: my job, my license, my reputation as someone who looked after people, not hurt them. One false allegation in the wrong hands, one black mark on my file, and my whole career could be over. That was the moment any lingering part of me that wanted to understand her vanished. This wasn't my broken little sister. This was a predator. I locked my front door, then called Denise. "It's time," I said. "I'm done just collecting evidence. I want to hit back." Her voice was calm. "Good," she said, "because I've been talking to a detective who specializes in financial crimes. He's interested, but he wants something solid. A confession would be ideal. Or proof Lily isn't mute and has been defrauding the benefit system. That opens up another angle." "How do we get that?" I asked. "We set a scene Lily can't resist," she said. "One where she thinks she's finally getting everything she wants. People tell the truth when they think they've already won." The plan we came up with felt like something out of a TV drama, not my quiet little life, but every part was legal, controlled, documented. I invited Lily and Mark over for dinner, to talk about the house, I said. I dangled the thing I knew they wanted most, a piece of my inheritance. I've been thinking, I texted. Maybe you were right. It's not fair I got the house and you got nothing. Come over Friday? We can talk about options. Mark replied within minutes. Knew you'd come around, we'll bring wine. I almost laughed. They were so transparent. I cleaned my little place top to bottom. Not because of them, but because I knew other people would be there. Sam was coming for moral support, but he'd also set up 2 small cameras in innocuous spots, one in a plant on the bookshelf, one high on a corner shelf disguised as a motion sensor. Denise had arranged for Detective Harris, the financial crimes guy, to be nearby with a small team, ready to come in if anything illegal happened. The riskiest part was Evie. I didn't want her anywhere near this mess. I asked Mum to take her for a granny night, making up a story about a last-minute shift. Mum, bless her, was just happy to see her granddaughter. Friday evening, at 6 on the dot, Lily and Mark arrived. Lily wore lipstick for the first time in ages, a deep red that reminded me of when we were teenagers sneaking into bars. She'd done her hair, put on a low-cut top. If you didn't know her history, you'd never guess she was supposed to be some fragile mute shut-in. Mark wore another too-tight shirt, smelling of aftershave and arrogance. Hannah, he said, kissing the air next to my cheek. You look surprisingly good. Thanks, I said dryly. Come in. Sam was already there, under the excuse of finishing up a report with me before his night shift. He greeted them warmly, playing his part as the harmless colleague. We're just waiting on one more guest, I said, pouring wine into glasses. Oh? Mark raised an eyebrow. Hot date? He smirked. Something like that, I said. There was a knock. My stomach flipped, but I kept my face neutral as I opened the door to Denise. She was in civilian clothes, just jeans and a blazer, carrying a tote bag with "Live, Laugh, Love" on it. She played her role perfectly. Friendly, chatty, Hannah's friend from book club. We sat, made small talk, ate cheap pasta I'd made. Lily used her apps sparingly, tapping out the odd phrase. Mostly, she just smiled and laughed silently while the device spoke for her. I watched her carefully, the way her throat moved when she suppressed a smile, the faint sound she made once, a little of agreement before slapping a hand over her mouth like a child who'd accidentally sworn. The cameras caught every second. Finally, Mark set his fork down. So, he said, the house. I took a sip of wine, heart hammering. Yeah, I said. I wanted to talk about that. I pulled out a small folder. It was mostly blank paper with a single mock-up page Denise had prepared, something that looked legal but wasn't actually binding. I talked to a lawyer, I said, watching Lily out of the corner of my eye. I wanted to see what I could realistically do, since Mum put the deed in my name. Mark's smile thinned. You didn't have to go that far, he said lightly. Family doesn't need lawyers. Actually, I said calmly, it's usually family who need them most. He laughed too loudly. Sure, so what did this lawyer say? That there are a few options, I said. I could add you and Lily to the deed, or I could take out a loan against the house and give you some money, or, I paused, I could sell it and split the profit. Lily's eyes lit up at that. She tapped her app. Sell, it said. Sell and run away together, in that chirpy voice. Everyone laughed politely. Selling might be extreme, Mark said. You love that house. And with the market right now? I shrugged. I'm open, but there's a catch to all of this. He stiffened slightly. A catch. Yeah. I leaned forward. I want everything above board. No more weird paperwork. No more papers you shove in front of me to sign without explanation. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. He frowned. What weird paperwork? Oh, I don't know, I said, casual. Guardianship forms with pre-stamped notary seals. Life insurance policies I don't remember signing. Credit cards I never opened. The air in the room changed. Sam shifted in his chair, watching. Denise's eyes were deceptively mild. Mark forced a laugh. Come on, Hannah, don't be dramatic. You're tired, that's all. You probably signed stuff and forgot. Maybe, I said. But that's why, from now on, any document involving me goes through my lawyer first. I nodded toward Denise. Denise here, she's good, sharp, does this for a living. His gaze snapped to her. Your lawyer? She smiled sweetly. Hi, she said. Don't worry, I'm only scary in court. Lily's fingers tightened around her glass. Her throat bobbed. For a second, I thought she might actually speak. Her phone lay on the table between us. Face up, I could see the app icon. Lily, I said, turning to her. You okay? She blinked rapidly, reached for the phone, thumb shaking. Surprised, the app said after a second. Didn't know you had a lawyer. I smiled thinly. I didn't know I had 2 maxed-out credit cards either. Life's full of surprises. Silence, the kind that buzzed in your ears. I decided to push. You know what the weirdest surprise was, though? I said softly. Hearing Evie's voice, that was something. Lily's head snapped toward me. If looks could kill, I'd have dropped dead on the spot. She's got such a lovely voice, I went on, not breaking eye contact. So clear, so scared when she told me about the money man and the accident. Mark's chair scraped against the floor. What are you talking about? He snapped. I'm talking about the night you dropped her off, I said, voice shaking now. Not from fear, but from fury I couldn't hold back. The way she begged me not to sign your papers, how she told me you and Lily talked just fine at home, how you talked about me being worth more if something bad happened while you had a nice fat payout waiting. Mark went pale, then flushed red. She's a kid, he said. She makes things up. You're twisting her words. Lily's hand flew to her throat. Her eyes were wild. Hannah, this is insane, Mark went on. You're stressed. You work too much. You're paranoid. Am I? I asked, because my paranoia found life insurance in my name with Lily as the sole beneficiary. My paranoia found credit cards opened with my social at your address. My paranoia had child services show up at my door because someone, gee, I wonder who, anonymously accused me of hurting Evie. Lily slammed her phone down. The app bounced, screen lighting up. Denise leaned back, folding her arms. I've seen this before, she said mildly. Family member milks a fake disability, finds a soft-hearted relative to use as collateral. It never ends well. For them. Mark stood up. We're leaving, he said. Lily, get your things. Lily didn't move. Her face was white. Beads of sweat stood out on her forehead. Sit down, Mark, I said, my voice low. Or we can let the detective waiting outside bring the cuffs in early. The color drained from his face. You're bluffing. Am I? I nodded toward the front door. Right on cue, there was a firm knock. Mark looked at me, then at the door, like a trapped animal. Denise sighed. You really should have thought this through, she said. Then she called, Come in. Detective Harris stepped in, 2 uniformed officers behind him. He flashed his badge. Evening, he said. Mark Carter? Lily Miller? Mark sputtered. We haven't done anything. This is harassment. Harris held up a hand. No one's under arrest, yet. But we do have some questions about a series of financial products in Ms. Miller's name. He glanced at me. Ms. Miller, is this the couple you mentioned? Yes, I said. My legs were shaking under the table, but my voice was steady. That's them. Mark turned to Lily, eyes wild. Say something, he hissed. Tell them you don't understand. She stared at him, then at me. Our whole lives hung in that second. The games, the excuses, the endless sympathy I'd poured into her like water into a cracked glass. Lily, I said quietly, you can talk. We both know it. Evie knows it. Just tell the truth. For once. Her eyes filled with tears. Her mouth opened. No sound came out at first, just a strangled breath. Then, hoarse, like a voice unused but very much there, she whispered, I'm sorry. The room went dead silent. Harris's gaze sharpened. Ms. Miller, he said, have you been able to speak this whole time? She looked at Mark. He shook his head violently, eyes begging her to stay quiet. Something in her seemed to shift. Maybe it was the weight of all the lies. Maybe it was the memory of her daughter's voice. Maybe it was just that, for the first time, she was cornered with nowhere to run. Yes, she choked, louder this time. Yes, I can talk. My knees almost gave way. 4 years of apps and pity and be gentle with Lily. She's been through so much, shattered in one word. Harris nodded slowly. Good, he said calmly. That'll make this easier, because we have some recordings we'd like to play you, and some documents with your name on them. He turned to Mark. Mr. Carter, you're welcome to call a lawyer, but I'd advise you not to say much until they get here. Mark spluttered, looking between us all. You can't prove anything, he hissed at me. You think anyone's going to believe your crazy story over us? She's my partner, not yours. She'll side with me. For the first time, Lily flinched away from him. Hannah, she whispered, voice cracking. I never wanted you dead. It was just... She gestured weakly at Mark. He said it would be like karma. For Dad. For the house. For everything you got. Lily, I said, my chest aching, I offered you everything I could give you that wouldn't destroy me. You could have lived with me. We could have sold the house together properly. You didn't want help. You wanted an easy way out. Her face crumpled. I was so angry, she sobbed. At you. At Mum. At life. Everyone always said you were the good one, the strong one. You had a proper job, a husband, an ex-husband, I cut in, who cheated on me, with one of your friends. She flinched. I know, she whispered. Mark told me it wasn't fair you still landed on your feet. He said if we just fixed some papers, the money would make everything even. I didn't know about the accident part at first. I swear. But when I did, I didn't stop it. She covered her face. I didn't stop him. Harris's voice was cool. You can tell us all about who planned what down at the station, he said, separately. The officer stepped forward. No handcuffs yet, just a firm escort. Mark spat something under his breath. Lily went limp, letting herself be led, still sobbing. They paused at the door. She turned back to me, mascara streaked down her cheeks. Evie, she whispered, don't let them take her. Don't turn her against me. My heart twisted. For all her lies, she was still my sister, still Evie's mum, but Evie had nearly become an orphan in all but name because of her choices. You did that yourself, I said quietly. I'll protect Evie, and if you ever really want to be her mum again, you'll tell the whole truth. To the police, to the judge, to her. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then she was gone. The door closed. The house was suddenly, eerily quiet. I realized I was shaking. Sam was at my side in 2 strides, his hand closing around mine. You okay? He asked softly. I took a long, shuddering breath. I don't know, I admitted. I thought I'd feel victorious. I just feel empty. That's normal, Denise said gently, packing up her fake legal documents. Revenge in real life isn't fireworks. It's paperwork and statements and a lot of waiting. But you did it. You stopped them. That counts for a lot. Over the next months, the fallout spread through our small world like a slow-motion explosion. Lily was charged with insurance fraud, welfare fraud, and conspiracy. Mark faced those plus additional charges for identity theft and attempted insurance scam. The money man broker panicked and rolled on them both in exchange for a lighter sentence, handing over emails where Mark talked about our golden goose and setting up the accident once the paperwork's sealed. Seeing those words in black and white made me feel sick. I'd been a line item on a spreadsheet to them, a number. Evie stayed with Mom while social services did their assessments. They interviewed me, visited my house, read the reports from CPS about the malicious call. It helped that I had everything documented. Every text, every weird request, every time Lily had played the helpless act while secretly pulling strings. One afternoon, Ms. Rodriguez, the social worker, sat at my kitchen table and looked me dead in the eye. Would you be willing to take formal custody of Evie if needed? She asked. I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. 100 times, yes. Later that night, alone in my bedroom, I cried for hours. Not because I didn't want Evie, I loved that little girl more than anything, but because of what it meant. My baby sister had become someone I had to protect her child from. I wasn't sure I'd ever fully forgive her for that. The first time I visited Lily in the detention center, it was at Denise's suggestion. You don't owe her a visit, she said, but sometimes facing them on your terms helps. I almost turned around twice in the car park. But then I thought of the years I'd spent dancing around her moods, always letting her control the narrative. This was my chance to take that back. She looked smaller in the visitor's room. No makeup, hair scraped back, prison-issue clothes hanging off her. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, then darted around, looking for cameras, mics, old habits. You can talk, I reminded her, sitting down. They already know. She swallowed. Old habits die hard, she muttered, voice rough. We sat in heavy silence for a moment. You're still angry, she said finally. Yes, I answered. I probably will be for a long time. I kept telling myself you'd be okay, she whispered, that you always land on your feet, that it wouldn't really hurt you, not like it hurt me. I told myself it was just balancing the scales. It would have killed me, I said flatly, or ruined my life so completely I might as well have been dead. And if you honestly can't see the difference between that and you being jealous I got a house, then you need more help than this place can give you. She flinched. Do you hate me? She asked, sounding like the little girl who used to crawl into my bed after nightmares. I took a long, slow breath. Some days, I admitted. Most days I hate what you did, what you became. But a tiny part of me still remembers the kid who held my hand on the first day of school, the teenager who lent me her favorite dress when I had my first date. I don't know what to do with that. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I lost myself, she whispered. After Dad, after Jason, after everything. It was easier to be the victim. People are nicer to victims. Until they find out you're not, I said. She nodded, shoulders shaking. I'm talking to the counselor here, she said. Really talking, not just using silence as a weapon. I told them about all of it, the lies, the money, Mark. They said if I keep working, I might get to see Evie supervised one day. That's up to the court, I said, and to her. I'll never stop her seeing you if she wants to, but I'll also never let you use her like you used me. She looked at me, eyes full of a kind of desperate hope. You're looking after her? She asked. She's okay. She's more than okay, I said, and for the first time that day, I smiled. She's talking, at school, with friends. She laughs, a lot. She asks about you. I tell her you're getting help. She sobbed, covering her mouth. Thank you, she whispered, for not turning her against me. I don't have to, I said quietly. Kids figure out the truth eventually. What you do now decides whether that truth is that you're a monster or that you're someone who fell apart and tried to fix it. That's on you, Lily, not me. When I left, my heart felt heavy but strangely lighter, like a story I'd been trapped in for years was finally closing a chapter. Mark took a plea deal eventually. He got a few years in prison, a hefty fine, and a lifetime ban from working in finance. He tried to paint himself as the mastermind who'd manipulated poor, vulnerable Lily. It backfired when the prosecution played clips of him bragging in texts to his friends about cashing in on the sad mute sister. Juries don't like bullies. Lily's sentence was shorter, with mandated counseling and the possibility of early release if she engaged with treatment. Some people said she'd got off lightly. Some said she was a victim too. For me, it didn't really matter what label they put on it. What mattered was that she couldn't hurt me anymore, or Evie. Taking formal custody of Evie was the hardest and easiest thing I've ever done. The home inspections, the court hearings, the endless paperwork. It was like being slowly buried in forms. But every time it felt overwhelming, I'd remember her little voice that first day. Please don't sign the papers. She'd saved me from signing my life away. Taking responsibility for hers felt like the only kind of revenge that actually healed something, instead of just punishing. People sometimes ask if I regret going as far as I did, recording my own sister, working with the police, sitting in court while her lies were dragged into the light. Part of me does. Part of me will always remember the look on her face when the verdict was read, the way Mum cried, torn between her daughters. Part of me wishes we'd been a different family, with small, fixable problems. But then, I look at Evie, doing her homework at my kitchen table, chattering about her day, her voice clear and bright. I think about the night visits from CPS stopping, the debt collector's calls ending, my credit slowly untangling from the mess they made. I think about walking to my car after a night shift without looking over my shoulder, wondering if the brake line's been cut or if someone's going to make my exhaustion look like recklessness. Justice isn't always clean. It costs you pieces of yourself you didn't know you'd have to give up. My illusions about my sister died in that living room the night she finally spoke. My belief that being the strong one meant endlessly forgiving people who harmed you died too. In its place, something else grew. Boundaries. A quiet, steady anger that learned how to use the system instead of just being crushed by it. A determination that if anyone tried to use me again, they'd find I wasn't a soft target. I was a witness. Sometimes late at night, when the house is still, I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, listening to the faint hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, Evie's soft snores through the wall. I think about how close I came to being a line on an insurance form, an unexpected fatality with a neat payout. Then I think about a small girl standing in my hallway, clutching a stuffed rabbit, breaking the one rule her parents had drilled into her: stay quiet. "Auntie Hannah," she'd said, "please don't sign the papers." In that moment, she chose the truth over her fear, over loyalty to people who didn't deserve it. She took a risk that could have cost her everything. If they'd found out she'd spoken, I don't like to imagine what they might have done. So no, I don't regret what came after. I didn't just get revenge. I exposed the rot that had been eating away at my family for years. I shut down the people who saw me as a walking policy, not a person. I took back my life, my name, my future. And the sweetest part of that revenge isn't Mark's prison sentence or Lily's fraud conviction or the way their little scheme crumbled in court. It's this: every morning, when Evie runs into the kitchen, hair a mess, voice loud and gleeful, shouting, "Auntie Hannah, guess what?" I remember the silence they tried to force on both of us, and I know deep in my bones that their plan didn't just fail, it backfired. The voice they tried to control was the one that exposed them. The woman they thought was too soft to fight back was the one who brought them down. And now, the life they tried to cash in is the one I'm finally, truly living, on my terms, with my eyes wide open and my doors firmly, safely locked.